we are now ready to bring on our next guest. And it's someone who's got some local ties to this area. Had a chance to meet him earlier this year, I believe, or at least late last year when he was in town. And I'd like to welcome to the program Father Nathan Cromly. Hello, Father.
Hi, it's good to hear your voice.
It is good to hear your voice as well. It is. It's great that you could join us and to talk a little bit about Catholic Radio and talk a lot about what it is that you do. For those of our audience who may not know who you are, why don't you give us a little bit of an introduction to who Father Nathan is?
Well, I'm a Catholic priest. I serve with the Brothers of St. John. We're an international congregation of the Catholic Church, so I'm a religious. It's a lot like sometimes people say, "What are religious?" And I say it's like nuns who are men.
Uh-huh.
That's what I am. Some people call us monks. We're kind of like that. But we go around doing good. We're basically friars, and I'm one of those. And so my order was founded in France, and as a part of what I do in my order, I work to raise up saints to lead. My passion is leadership, and leadership understood in a very broad sense, meaning Christians activating their God-given talents and skills for the sake of the gospel. And whenever we do that, we end up we change the world around us in a positive and beautiful way. And I want to see that happen. So I work with families, I work with young people, I work with business professionals, all with the same kind of call, which is get up off your couch and start to spread the good news. And so I started a nonprofit to do that work called the St. John Institute. And we're on the airways. We have a podcast I'm very proud of right here, playing right there on your radio station.
Right.
As a matter of fact. And we put that podcast out every week across our podcast mechanism. We have 180 episodes y'all can listen to anytime you want. We do video outreach, we do email outreach, social media outreach, and then we do events from parish missions to retreats to webinars to seminars. You name it, we're doing it, and we're trying to light up as many souls as we can with that inspiring message to get out and to evangelize and not to be afraid.
Yeah, I like the attention to leadership, the idea that that we all are called to be leaders in some way, shape, or form, whether that is leaders of just our families, leaders in our business, leaders in our congregations, our parishes, or even larger than that. I mean, it's not limited to just one particular, grandiose role, is it?
Well, when you think about, and as I've done a lot of research on what leadership is. And, the best definition I found, someone gave me is that leadership is influence, right? So to study leadership or to improve your leadership means to hone your ability to make an influence. Well, then when you think about it, every human being is called to be influential all the time. If you're a dad, then you're supposed to influence your kids. You rear them, you educate them, you inspire them, you help them. And all those actions that are part and parcel of fatherhood are actually acts of influence. And therefore, fatherhood is a kind of leadership. And you could do the same thing, of course, for motherhood. Then you could look at it in business, but you could look at it also from the point of view of society. Is our little parish churches leading the town? Or do we set the culture that's going to end up being in the families who end up being in the sports leagues? And by so doing, if our families are solid, our sports leagues will be healthy, and our families are solid if our church is holy. So holy churches equals solid families equals wonderful activities for our community. So since we know that, well, then we say, well, our church needs to make that influence. And so we need leadership, meaning people who deliberately make a powerful influence for God and for the good, and we need it across the board. Every saint is called to be a leader, because every Christian is called to be a saint, and every saint is a leader. So if every saint's a leader and every Christian's called to be a saint, then every Christian's called to be a leader. It's really simple. and leading wherever you are. So we have to keep it in that broad perspective, because sometimes people say, I'm not a leader. But ask yourself, do I have a sphere of influence at work, at home, with my friends? Yes. Well, then you need to claim that for Christ. And when you do, you become a leader.
That's fantastic, Father Nathan. We could probably let you speak for an hour straight and not ask you any questions, because that's some great stuff you've got there. What is the geographic scope? You said you do all these different things you told us all about. What's the, do you go all over the country? Do you stay local? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I live in Denver, Colorado, where I have a community of men that I live with, our priory, we call it. Mm-hmm. And my ministry has a scope across the whole country. I've lived overseas for 5 years, and I've traveled extensively overseas, but my goal is America. And so I do a lot of work, go wherever I'm requested, wherever the St. John Institute is requested, to do our ministry. We do most of our ministry, however, right there in Ohio, and right near you. We're in Salina, Maria Stein, Glandorf, Toledo, and Cincinnati. That kind of Western Ohio is where we do the majority of our ministry. And I'm proud to do it, because where you all live is an area of it's just a unique culture that comes from the combination of faith, family, and business in each individual. And I know, because my family set roots in Glandorf back in 1837. And we're proud members of the parish there. I have helped to build the church, as a matter of fact. And so I know, from my blood, what it's like to live in that beautiful, blessed part of the country. But it's where you as an individual are at the source. You understand God's got my back. And if God's got my back, then he's going to bless my family. And my family expands into a service of hard work. And that service of hard work blossoms into a business. And that unique combination is so beautiful. I want to try to capture the spirit that we live naturally in Western Ohio and bring it to the other parts of the country. Because I really think that the spirit of the gospel and the spirit of the gospel of work is alive and well in the hearts of Western Ohio, which is why we're so prosperous and cleanly and thrifty and all the other good things that we are. And I want to take that same spirit and then bring it elsewhere in the country.
Yeah, you say that you find this sort of culture unique in this particular area, so that leads me to wonder, okay, what is it that you experience in other places? What sort of poverty are we talking about in that we're trying to impact?
In the end, it's the same poverty everywhere, including in our own hearts, of course, and that's the poverty of sin. Where I look at sin in particular is sin has a way of incapacitating our action. Right? That's where I really look at it. It impedes us from blossoming forth into the proclamation of the resurrection through everything that we do and that we say. And I want to stop that effect of sin. And so my particular message, the way that I apply the gospel to folks' lives is by liberating their freedom to act and their freedom to claim their world for Christ and for his love. The poverty where a lot of people get stricken with is that they don't believe in themselves. They don't have confidence. They think that nobody cares about them. They are caught in a perpetual indecision that keeps them from deciding to move forward. They're afraid of risks that are out there. They think that their life doesn't have any difference or have any importance. And sometimes even the Christians themselves are underneath that same influence, because we don't listen and believe in the good news with all of its liberating power. When Jesus comes into the world, he sets us free from our past. He fills us with his dynamic grace, a grace which is more powerful than any challenge that's in front of us. And he sets us on the road to victory, carrying us every step of the way. The only thing that he won't do for us is he won't try. He won't try for us. We have to try. And that's my message that I carry wherever I go is, folks, you need to dare. You need to dare to try, to have the courage to say, okay, God, even though I feel like I'm a terrible mom and I feel like all the kids are going crazy, even if I feel like I'm a worthless business person, Jesus doesn't care really what you think about yourself. He wants you to look at yourself like he looks at you. And when we look at ourselves like he looks at us, well then, as is of course the state motto of Ohio, nothing is impossible with God. and we start to dare great things, turn our lives around, and start to do what's positive and good instead of just kind of getting beaten down. So the poverty that I'm always going after and that gets me all fired up is the poverty of folks who are neutral, who are mediocre, and who think that that's their ascribed lot because of either their past sins or their present circumstances. And that Jesus didn't come to say, I can't help you. Jesus came to say, get out of your tomb. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I think about daring great things, I think about the founders of this radio station. They dared to step out and see that through, to see that whole process through. It took a number of years, and I'm sure a number of meetings where they thought, is anything ever going to happen? You know, how do we do this? Along the way, they got the help that they needed, and they stuck to it. And lo and behold, here we are 12 years later almost, broadcasting Catholic radio to this great area. And we hope to continue to do so for another 12 years or more. But that's only going to happen if other people dare to offer their treasure to us in order to be able to continue to do that. And you can do that by calling us at 888-287-0655. That's 888-287-0655. And I do want to offer something that came in. We got a donation from a generous donor who stopped by and offered a matching fund, which means that donations made from now until I'd say until we meet the fullness of this fund, which is $1,000. So there's $1,000 fund out there that all donations up to that amount will be doubled. All right. And we want to cover this as soon as we can so that we can take advantage of this opportunity. So if you've been out there waiting for the opportunity to have your $20 donation doubled to 40 or 25 to 50, now is the time. 888-287-0655.
Father Nathan, I love what you said about this being a special area of the country in terms of faith, family, business, and the values. I think too often we just get living our daily lives and we don't think about those sorts of things and think about the blessings of an area that we might be in that other people don't have the advantage of.
Right.
So I think it's great for local listeners to hear that and to stop and pause and say, hey, we are really blessed to be in an area of the country, in an area of the state where, we have these strong values that we share in common with so many people.
Mm-hmm.
As you've traveled, no, go ahead, please.
Oh, I'd love to hear your question. Go ahead.
Well, I've just wondered, as you've traveled throughout the country and tried to share that message and bring that to other places, do you tend to encounter a lot of resistance from folks? Like, that's not something to strive for. That doesn't sound good. Yeah. Or any other kind of resistance that you might run into.
The resistance that usually comes from people, it comes from folks who haven't experienced the vibrancy of freedom. And the vibrancy of being able to be told that you can do anything. You go back again to the state motto, with God, all things are possible. And we're the state that gave birth to the Wright brothers. And 66 years after their first flight, Neil Armstrong from Little Wapakoneta walked on the moon as the first man to walk on the moon. I mean, we're an area of the country of great achievement, of discovery, of invention. And it doesn't take you long. Look at every little town. All those small towns, you can't even buy land. No one wants to leave. and they're not real excited that you came. As a matter of fact, we're not going to go to that end. So the resistance comes from the hearts of people who don't have that confidence, and that's where I think everyone in your listening area needs to thank God that they're there. What an incredibly blessed part of the country that you're in, where the church is in the center of all your little towns. And in that little town where you've got the church in your center, when you put God in your center, think about what message that gives to your culture. Just think about this. God is the one who guarantees our success. Now, not necessarily in a worldly sense, because the cross is at the center of all of our churches, and the cross is not a measure of worldly success. But he does guarantee our final success with him. I mean, he promises us that he's going to carry us across that finish line if we're faithful to him and keep his commandments. So, but like my point is, when you put a church in the middle of your town, you're saying our town can do it. And now every Sunday, all the people of that town go to that church to hear what? God is calling you to love your family, and God's giving your family the grace to make it. And then you feed on the blessed sacrament of the body and blood of our Lord Jesus Christ. And you go back into your homes to live out the strength that you received at that church. It's almost like we're putting right in the middle of the church all of the food that all of us need to live on. And so the business that flows as a result of that was because we all have to make a living, but it's flowing from people who know that God's got their back. Mm. And when a business person knows that God's got their back, the business person is going to expand the business, dare great things, work real hard, because in the end, it flows from that integrated person who sees faith, business, and families all coming from themselves. Mm-hmm. So yes, I do receive resistance from that message, but it's resistance from people who just can't believe that it's possible, that God really does have your back. Mm-hmm. And so that's the beauty of the Catholic Church. We go around telling people hope, giving people positivity, giving people the desire for higher things. And when you follow, the next thing that comes is your family. And then after that, the world that you work in. Mm-hmm. And I'm just privileged to be able to work in that sphere.
And it's a sphere that's really necessary. And I'm sure that you offer some consulting, or at least help business people with their skills in this area.
I find it's where my passion is. I want to help folks that, if we reclaim the world of work, we've reclaimed 8 hours of your day. And so many people come to work and they drag their feet, or they go out to the barn and they drag their feet and they say, this is what I've got to do in order just to make a living. But that's not why Christ gave you that job. And that's not his intention behind your work. God's intention behind your work is that you glorify him through your work, and that the work actually helps you to become holier. So if I can get that message out there and show how work is about faith, and about how faith is about your business, and bring those two things together, well, now you're living an integrated life. Mm-hmm. You're not putting your faith on the side when you go to work for 8 hours a day. Instead, you're bringing your faith into your work. Mm-hmm. And when you bring faith into work, your faith can transform your work. And I believe that when businesses are claimed for Christ, then we're going to have a lot easier time claiming the family. So the end goal is that families be sanctified. And I think that a doorway into that sanctification is to claim the heart of the mom and the dad who are working in that world, and allow Christ to work at them there, so when they can practice in the workplace what they come home to perfect, which is a life lived in love and in devotion to God.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that. Well said, Father. Well said. Yeah,
you're
absolutely.
welcome. I'm excited about this.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
excited about your radio station too. And I just hope everyone listening calls in and donates, because this is a miracle station. And think about the blessings that you're giving by your donation to everyone else who's listening. Mm-hmm. So I can't speak highly enough about what you guys are doing. And I just hope everybody calls in. And if this is a place you could give $1, folks, and they'd still be grateful for it. Mm-hmm. And so call in and give your donation now.
And yep. that number to call is 888-287-0655. We almost can't say it enough. 888-287-0655. We have volunteers in the office to take your phone call. We've heard the phone ring a couple of times. It's fantastic. Let's keep that going. As you know, we have a matching fund of $1,000 out there. So we need to match that. We need to cover that as quickly as we can so that we can move on and continue to take your donations at 888-287-0655.
Yeah, I love that message that you have there, Father Nathan, in terms of you never know the effect or your $1 can make such a difference. We had a guest on yesterday that talked about the ripple effect, and you're blessed if you even get to know about one ripple, but those ripples just continue and continue and touch people's lives. So have you had opportunities yourself where you have seen that ripple where somebody said, I didn't like what you said at the time, but it later touched me and had those blessings of learning about a few of those ripples?
Oh, I'm so grateful for God's ministry. And if I'm going to speak about ripples, then I want everyone to realize that every one of our lives has those ripples. And just like you all want a radio station so that you can have the Catholic voice of God reaching you in your cars and when you're doing the dishes, right? So you're like, we want this station so that it can affect us. Think about how much the station wants you. The reason the station exists is so that when you're listening and sanctifying your days, you're doing the dishes there at the sink, your life be transformed and you ripple onto the kids and onto the neighbors around you. And if we all work together, our ripples build. I was blessed. One of the very touching thing, I went to say a funeral mass in a little town called Cranberry Prairie, Ohio. And as I said the mass, two priests came to join me for this person's funeral. And both of those priests had attended my youth program. I run a youth program called Eagle Eye Ministries. As a matter of fact, we have a teen retreat coming up in Maria Stein, Ohio, the second week of June, and registration's open on our website, eagleeyeministries.org. And both priests had been through Eagle Eye. So they came up to me and thanked me for Eagle Eye Ministries. And I got to celebrate Mass with two priests who had been influenced to find their vocations through the ministry that I run. And I think that it's awesome. And so then you think of all of the 10,000 souls a year who are sanctified by those two men that I had a small part to play in. Ripples, everybody, have a tendency to amplify, not diminish. What we need to do is make as many as we can. And that's why, I just think you guys supporting this radio station ought to be a priority for every family out there, because you never know. Someone driving their car right now could be hearing the voice of Jesus Christ through what we're talking about, and they could go on to dare great things in their home and family, and it'll all be because of what we're doing. Ripples amplify, they don't diminish.
Right. Yep. And the encountering through such a really a private sort of media as radio is. It's intimate, is what we've heard it said. A voice, the sound comes into your ears, and you get to. It's almost like it's being spoken directly to you. And that message, and it's just one of many messages that we receive all day long. And if you're going to be receiving messages, may as well be from Catholic radio. Make it something good that you're consuming, not out of the dumpster, as they like to say sometimes. So,
amen to that, Deacon Jeff. So give us a call and partner in the ministry with everyone. 888-287-0655. That's 888-287-0655. You never know the impact that your dollar may have in touching another life. And then, as Father Nathan's saying, it just continues and continues and continues.
Right. So in addition to Eagle Eye Ministries, and we were coming up close to our half-hour mark for you, Father Nathan, Eagle Eye Ministries is one thing. What are some of the other sort of offerings that you have that folks could take advantage of?
You can find them all at one simple website. So grab your pens and write down this website, stjohninstitute.org. That's SAINT, johninstitute.org. And that website contains all the different things that we do, which are just a lot. but also it contains a link to a neat website that we're going to be launching in 2 weeks called daregreatthings.org. And Dare Great Things is where we'll have our blog. So I'll be writing on there and posting on there, and we'll have other contributors as well. daregreatthings.org. It's also the name of my podcast, Dare Great Things for Christ podcast, which is available, by the way, and you can listen to right here on this great radio station.
That's right. We played at 3:30 on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday instead of the Bishop's Corner program, which we do on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So, yeah, we're proud to do that. I enjoy listening to your talks there. They're different from the other offerings that we have. I mean, we've got a lot of question and answer. We've got a lot of other types of programs in terms of apologetics, but this is more practical, sage advice to people out there and talking about leadership and how to do that in our ordinary lives. So I want to thank you for offering that to us and being able to share that with our audience.
You're welcome. Pray for priest.
That's right. Pray for priest. So Father, since we're coming up, I'll give you the last word on what you'd like to share with our audience today.
Remember that the final exam question on the examination of our life is the following. What did you do to the poorest of the poor? Whatever you did to the least of my brothers, that you did to me. And whatever you didn't do to the least of my brothers, that you didn't do to me. And in the end of our days, we'll be judged on our actions, not on what we thought we might want to do, not about what we felt guilty about. Christ came in order to inspire you. Move on his inspiration. Do all the good you can do to as many as you can do it to, for as long as you can do it. Do as much good as you can do for as many as you can, for as long as you can, because we will not pass this way again.
Amen. Wow.
That's, yeah.
Thank you.
That's a fantastic final word. Give us a call at
greetings to all my kin out there in Western Ohio. I wish I could come home again. Hopefully I'll be there soon.
All right.